I've asked you lots of questions. I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask me a question, anything. And the podcast is called Virtually Anything Goes, right? So we haven't rehearsed this. I don't know what the question is going to be, but I did ask you to prepare one that you can ask me, and anything goes virtually. But the only caveat is you're going to have to answer that question as well. So I'm going to strap myself in, wait for the question, and hit me with it. Let me know what would you like to know? What question do you have for me?
Well, as you say, Lev, I had to think of a question that I'd be prepared to answer myself. So I was able to rule out a number of questions to start with. But the one question I would like to ask you was, if an author was to write a biography about your life up to this point, what would its title be and why?
Okay. If an author was going to write a book about my life so far, what would the title be? And what was the second part?
And why?
And
Tell us a little bit about the book. You can edit down the awkward silence, by the way.
Yeah. You can hear the whirring of the cogs, right? Okay, I think the title would be, and there's a loaded element behind this. The title would be, "Is Lev short for something?" Because whenever I introduce myself to anybody new, "Hi, what's your name?" "My name's Lev." "Oh, sometimes it's what, Ken, Kev, Len." No. It's Lev. But the next question always is, "Oh, is that short for something?" And no, it's not. And I have, and I was talking to somebody the other day about this. I have well, it's not rehearsed now because it comes naturally, but there is a sort of 4 sentences that follow that, which is typically, no, it's not short for something. It's actually, it's a Russian name, but there's no Russian ancestry. Parents just like the name, but it could also be Hebrew. So in Russian, it's lion, and in Hebrew, it's the heart. So, it's lion, heart, you pick. But
that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, and it's but I guess the point is it's the reason it relates to my life is, one, because it happens at least once a week, but also my background is I'm half English, half Dutch. I was born and raised in Germany. My dad was stationed in the army over in Germany, British Army over in Germany. Met my mum, and my brother and I were born in Germany, and I spent the first 23 years of my life there. So it does relate directly to my life, how it started. And then obviously where I got to today, which is, living in England, married to an English wife with 2 kids. But I guess the story would be told in the book, but that would be the title, I think, because it's probably the most common question. And maybe, I don't know, maybe having it on the podcast now, I don't actually have to explain it anymore. Who knows? It could be a cathartic moment. So is that what you're expecting? Is that enough detail, do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty cool. And maybe we should, go and source the services of an author and get that book started.
I mean, get a ghostwriter, and let's do it. What about you? Go on. So far to date, what would be the book title and why?
Well, obviously, I've had the luxury of giving this a lot of thought, so there'll be a less awkward silence before I go up with it. Right, clearly I'm not famous enough for a book to be written about yet, but who knows, with my ambitions, maybe one day people will find me interesting enough they'll want to read a book about it. And I thought the title I would ask for it to be written about would be called Beyond the Wrong Summit. You may recall the tales of me infamously climbing the wrong mountain as part of the 3 Peaks Challenge back in 2011. My subsequent media fame for the mistake, and the joys of carrying the Olympic torch, and the pride of raising money for leukemia research, then going on to fundraise for Mind last year and successfully completing the 3 Peaks Challenge. And I'd love to think that full circle of getting it spectacularly wrong. So many people like, how do you climb the wrong mountain? To actually then, progressing, elevating. See what I did there with mountains? Elevating my career. And the successful 3 Peaks Challenge, how it almost kick-started the career progression and inspired my personal confidence today. I think there's a nice story there. Maybe I'll be the only person that buys that book and reads it, but that's what I've got in mind.
Yeah. That's a nice story. That's a great idea. And we can always sketch it out, and we'll write each other's books, and we'll interview each other more and write it out. If nobody else wants to write about us, then we'll make a deal. When we hit 60 and nobody's written about us, we'll do it for each other.